Hi, beautiful people. I believe it's been, 2 weeks since I sat down with you guys, but I'm here today, and today I'm doing something absolutely different. So I'm super duper excited. So let's get right into the video. Alright, loves, so today we are doing a book review. Now, let's just start with a disclaimer. I am not a book reviewer, okay? In fact, I'm still grasping the discipline of reading books. I read them for discipline. I don't read them for entertainment. I'm not your typical bookworm. So I read because I need knowledge. I need to grow, okay? So yeah, so we are reviewing this book, Reformed, A Story of Grace and Intimacy, by my sister, OPOKU-YEBOAH. I hope I pronounced that right because she's Nigerian and I'm not. So, yes. All right, guys. So the first thing I reviewed was the Stay Productive Journal. That was months ago, and so I'm reviewing this one as well. So this is a story of a young lady that just loves Jesus, and she overcame masturbation. So that's what we're talking about. Another disclaimer: I personally have not battled with masturbation, and so I'm reviewing the book, but I do believe that addictions kind of face the same thing. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. It's kind of like one solution helps all. I think addiction is addiction. So just because we are talking about overcoming masturbation today doesn't mean if somebody is addicted to sex, addicted to maybe pornography, addicted to emotional salamander. If you've been here long enough, you know what that means. Then they can't get help. They can. Okay? So first of all, this book is such an easy read. Such an easy read. I read it in a day. Literally. And that's a lot for me because, to be honest, for me, reading is tasking. It has to be like on a to-do list. There's certain people who love to read just to enjoy reading. I do it because I need to learn, I need to grow. So it was such an easy read, just 83 pages. And it's a personal testimony, a personal story of how she overcame masturbation. So it's not like a typical set of rules, do this, do that. She's just sharing, what helped her. So without giving out too much information, so help me God, I'll explain what I got from the book, and then I'm going to link it in my description below so that you can get the book on Amazon. Guys, let's not even get into supporting people that are out there doing things with their gifts. All right? Yes. So she begins by telling us how it happened. Now, I'm going to generalize it because it's a story. And so if I tell you the story, why are you going to buy the book? Right? So I'm just going to generalize what I got from the book. Firstly, for most people, not all people, things like masturbation and pornography happen as a result of curiosity, or you just kind of like bump into them, right? Maybe you have some older cousins at home, they left some magazines, they left some Mills and Boons, some erotic reads and things like that. And so if you're a curious cat, you are jumping on it. I personally am not a curious person. So that's why I think I wouldn't even have delved into some of those things. I lack curiosity. I'm just not that person. But for most people, it is, out of curiosity that they just jump, what's this? Or they just bump into it and it feels good. So they, get on it again. The other thing I observed from reading her story and the two people she interviewed at the end of the story is most people were kind of running away from something. So sometimes people in childhood, because it starts in childhood, sometimes maybe your parents are not giving you enough attention, or, they're not assertive. They're not telling you you're beautiful, so you don't feel loved. Or you're in some form of, maybe verbal abusive home, or just a home where your parents are super duper busy and they don't have time. I think this is something African parents are trying to change. Having been in Ukraine, I really appreciated how much parents spend time with their kids. And I got to find out that it's compulsory. It's part of things that the school demands you do. Take out time, go with the kids for a walk, allow them to play, be there with them. And that is so, so healthy. So the African setup, typical African setup, I believe we're changing the narrative. Spending time with kids, you know, asking them how their day went, do they have any issues, was a bit rare. It was rare in homes. So most kids actually kind of dealt with loneliness. They dealt with esteem issues out of lack of assertiveness from their parents, or, you know, lack of just approval and things like that. The only time you're gonna get approval is when you're doing well in school. So what happens to like average graders while they're growing up? So you get that kind of thing. So for most people, that's what it was. So getting out of it, because I'm making today's video super short. The first thing she says, without giving out too much, is you need to open up to someone. Now, the reason why most people don't open up to people about masturbation or addiction in a generous sense is because they think that the only person battling with it. And I'm talking to people that are in a Christian background. So when you go to church, no, you're not talking to anybody. God help you if you're already in some form of working space, like, you know, you're working in church, in the choir, you're the Sunday school this, you know, you're a youth minister or something. It just makes it so hard because you believe that the minute you tell people you're battling with something, it changes their perception of you. And that is the number one thing the devil uses to keep believers in addictions. He tells you, number one, you're alone. This particular addiction is peculiar to you. Number two, people are going to judge you. They're going to see you differently. So you decide to keep it to yourself. But guys, there's liberation, there's freedom in telling someone. And who you tell is so important from what I got in the book. Don't go out there telling some friend who's just going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm battling with the same thing too. Sometimes we're actually looking for sympathy and understanding and not freedom. Now, when you're looking for freedom, yes, you need to tell someone, number one, that is higher than you spiritually and can help you. Two, a person you actually trust. And that's so important. A person you actually trust. So I would advise that you pray on who to open up to. Someone you know is not going to tell somebody else. Right? And then a person that would help you through it, hold you accountable. Guys, when you go out to a pastor or a spiritual leader and they first scold you, scolding you is not judgment, guys. That's like us saying if parents are scolding kids, they're being judgmental. It's out of love. Even Jesus talks about disciplining the person he loves. So somebody telling you, oh yes, this is wrong, what's going on, or they scold you does not mean they're being judgmental. Do not pick that lie from the devil, okay? Scolding comes in love. Discipline comes in love. Sometimes you think that friend that is so sympathizing and says, oh, I understand. They may not love you that much, or they may not know how to express love. So number one, open up to someone. Number two, develop an intimate relationship with God. Okay, that's why I love it. It's a story of grace and intimacy. Intimacy with God, guys, breaks a lot of things. Personally, if I was addicted to anything, I was addicted to emotional connections. I always wanted to be with a boy. Like, we have to have something. And one time, God literally had to ask me, do you actually think this boy loves you more than me? And I was just there in tears. No, God, but you know. So I realized that I hadn't awakened to the love of God. Am I saying there's no room for, you know, that kind of affectionate love between a man and a woman? Yes, at a time. But it should come from a place when you've already been filled with the love of God. So sometimes when we're going through addictions, it's because we are actually not intimate with God. Intimacy with God, getting to know God on a personal level, begins to fill those voids that we're trying to fill with addictions. So the more she spent time with God, the more she, you know, had fellowship with God. And guys, I had to close my eyes for this. Fellowship should not be religious. Because that just destroys a lot of things. For some of us, spending time with God is so tasking because we followed a to-do list. Look, If you love to sing, start off with that. Start off with singing. Start off with dancing before God. And then with time, you begin to stretch yourself. Don't go into fellowship. I'm going to speak in tongues for 3 hours. Yes, 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 you can. Hashtag Obama. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? God is your father. He's your friend. You can talk to him. So there's a place for coming with all the big words, oh Lord, everlasting King, calling him all the beautiful names. There's a place for that. And there's a place to just come before him and say, God, I'm struggling. Okay, Dad, I'm out of it. This is hard for me. So you need to learn, maybe that's a video for another day, how to have, I believe our relationship with God has so many dimensions. And I think I'm going to teach that one of these days, right? So the more she spent time with God, God began to fill those voids, right? And when you have this beautiful, intimate relationship with the Lord, guys, you fall in love with him. And when you fall in love with him, you don't want to hurt him. And so even when that urge comes back, you're like, I don't want to hurt my king. And this is not something staged. It's not something you can be taught. It comes from within. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. You don't want to hurt God. It's not something you're taught. Don't hurt God. He actually becomes your heartbeat, your love. So you don't want to hurt him. And you know that sin hurts him. Sin separates you from him. So even though the urge is on a scale of 1 to 10, 12, you're like, no, I don't want to hurt God. And another thing, as I conclude, guys, we live for God, in God, and through God. Okay? The Bible says it is him who gives us, the desires to will, to do. I'm definitely paraphrasing that, right? And grace is multiplied in knowledge. So when you spend time in the Word of God, you're actually empowered. When you spend time with God, he gives you new desires. He gives you strength, to overcome those difficult situations. So guys, intimacy with God is such a solution. And I love that's what happened for her and the other 2 people that were interviewed at the end who also struggled with masturbation. I want to point out that all these people are female. So if I have some females that are like, no, I don't want to share, it's weird. No, this thing is not peculiar to you. People are dealing with it and other people have been liberated from it. So lastly, I want to mention what intimacy is and what intimacy is not. Intimacy for me is vulnerability. It's nakedness. It's being yourself before God. Intimacy is not just calling God sweet names. Because when I was younger, that's what I thought intimacy is. Calling him Abba, calling him Papa. Certain people call God Abba and Papa and they're not intimate with God. It's just, they've just adopted. When you watch someone and they tell you, oh, I call God this sweet name. So you pick it. That's not intimacy. Intimacy is vulnerability with God. Intimacy is nakedness. Being unashamed, coming with everything, your scars, just coming bare before him. Intimacy is spending time with him, choosing him. Do we get that? So this is a very good read. I'm gonna give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna put that in my description where you can get it, and I'll put her socials. So give our girl a good read, a good could I say goodbye? No, okay, buy the book and read it and give her a review. Papa Boo, I'm so proud of you. This is such a good thing. And I hope to see more believers doing such things. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. I don't know if it's your typical review, honestly, but yeah, I was just sharing what I got from the book personally. Okay, so if you're here for the first time, do subscribe. We love to see the growth. We love it. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always coming. Until my next video, it's goodbye, God bless, and let's have intimacy with the Father.